Hello. Our focus here is to explore the notion of undertaking and implementing continuing professional development. So, when we talk about continuing professional development, we're not just thinking about training that you might have to do as part of your role. There are certain elements of training that all people working in schools will have to keep up to date with. When we're talking about continuing professional development, we're talking about the types of training and development that will help in your professional role to move further towards the goal. So it's really important to undertake CPD in a profession such as education because it's ever changing. It's like science and technology. There's always something new that someone has researched and people are developing. That's really important because we want the best for the students. And if we find out that something works, we want to do more of it. So once again, it's really important to keep updated with the latest research or data that may help those students make that little bit more progress so they can have better outcomes at the end of the day. There's also a lot of research that says if you're a long-serving member of staff, you're less likely to engage in CPD and be open to any new ideas that come from the latest research or data. That's really important to know if you are a long-serving member of staff, because you want to be open to these new experiences. It's really important to stay engaged with your own CPD because it has to benefit you and your own development, as well as whatever's happening for your school or your department. So your CPD is for you as an individual, as well as your school and department. That's really important. The benefits of CPD are huge. It means that you can develop your current skills so that you can incorporate new ideas into your practice. You can try out new things. You can see what's worked for other people and see if it works for your students and in your classroom or in your group setting as well. One of my favourite things about CPD is the collaboration that can come from it, and being able to discuss your role and your responsibilities with others who are in a similar position is great, and that means you can share best practice. There may be other people who've been doing your job for longer or who are brand new to your job and are now finding out these really exciting things to do, and sharing that practice is really lovely. It also gives you a chance to meet with staff from different schools. Maybe they're from specialist schools or independent schools. And meeting staff from these different backgrounds really opens your eyes up to different things that you can be doing as well. One of the great things about CPD is that you can plug gaps that you have in your skill set or your understanding, and you can develop those areas so they're not a gap anymore. Some of the big ones are things like ICT, being able to use more of that in your classroom or in your group sessions. Improving literacy or numeracy. There are lots of TAs I've worked with who really don't like numeracy or maths or GCSE maths or anything like that. And that's one of their main areas to develop because they want to be able to help the children with those areas. Behaviour management is also a big one. And with behaviour management comes all of the other things that can happen with individual students. We'll look at behaviour management later in one of the forthcoming videos. One of the great things about CPD is that it's been found that those who engage with that tend to be happier and more motivated in their roles, and I think that's a great reason for undertaking CPD. I've certainly found that to be one of the best things about CPD. When we're thinking about implementing feedback that we get from any training or from anybody observing us, it's really important that we do that as soon as possible. There's been a lot of research that shows that if you attend a training session, if you do some CPD, if you have an observation, if you react on that immediately, then it has more of an impact on your practice than if you wait. We all know how busy we are in school these days, and if we don't act quickly, those things kind of drop out of our heads. They're just not as fresh in our minds, and we forget the reasons why they were there in the first place, and then just think, oh, we won't do that anymore. So it's important to act as quickly as possible with feedback. I also find that discussing feedback in person is far more beneficial than having a written feedback. Written feedback can come after the discussion in person. But quite often we take written words more personally or we read it with the wrong tone. You may have all received text messages or emails where you think, oh, that's a bit rude, and that can be done with feedback as well. Much better to discuss in person. And then any questions that you have for the person giving the feedback, you can ask immediately and have those answered for you. I would always suggest asking for feedback on specific areas of your work. Don't just ask for general feedback, because there will always be something that you know you need to improve on. Asking for feedback on that particular area is great, and it helps the person to narrow down their feedback as well. You should seek out staff who can help you develop specific areas by looking around in your school and thinking, who does that well? Find someone who does what you want to do well, really well already, and talk to them. Find out what they do. Find out what background kind of research they do in order to do that thing well. And then ask them if they'd be able to help, perhaps in a coaching role, to come and watch you or to give you some further feedback. And make changes to what you do and request feedback again. It's a cycle. So it's not just a one-time thing where you think, I want to improve my numeracy. I'll do this training course. I'll have this observation. They said it was great, and so I'm done. That's not really how feedback works. Continuing professional development is all about this cycle of continuing to develop yourself. It's really important that that does become a cycle and that you don't get to that point where you think, I'm fabulous and I can do everything, because there's always something more that we can develop. And it's really important that you ask for feedback if you think you need it.